Hi, everyone. My name is Prashant, and it's a great honor to present to you. And I am dialing in from Sydney. It's actually 9 p.m. in Sydney, Australia. And it's great that we have a global conference, global summit here, and we can all interact and learn from each other. Today, I'll be talking about how we can enhance the learning outcomes for our students by activating the why and the how of learning and teaching. I think usually we like to focus on the what. What are we teaching our students? But there is a way to enhance the learning outcomes for our students when we focus on the why and we also focus on the how of learning. Now, what do I mean by the why? What do I mean by the how? I will tell you, I will let you know later today as the session progresses. So, a bit about me. I am the course director of the Bachelor of Commerce at Macquarie Business School, which is part of Macquarie University. This is the largest degree in both the business school and the entire university. We have about 6,000 students in the Bachelor of Commerce. A Bachelor of Commerce is actually a very popular degree in Australia as well. And over the years, I have presented learning and teaching workshops across the UK and South and Southeast Asia. I've done it in Pakistan, in Nepal, in Bangladesh, in India, Sri Lanka, the UAE, Singapore, Philippines, and the UK as well. And actually, I didn't update this slide just a few weeks ago in Malaysia and Vietnam as well. These were on the ground in those countries, whereas I guess today is online, and that's a great medium as well to meet and interact with like-minded professionals online. To give you some context of the work that I do, I have a short 2-minute video about what the Bachelor of Commerce looks like, and that will give you some insights about what I am going to be talking about shortly. So I'd like to just play you a quick video about the Bachelor of Commerce degree at Macquarie Business School.
Macquarie's Bachelor of Commerce makes sure that you are equipped, engaged, empowered, and employable. Our course is built around employability. We work with industry partners to create practical and experiential learning for our students.
You will work on industry case studies, engage with industry experts, participate in student competitions to solve real-world business challenges, and build your industry network, including our Macquarie Park Innovation District and the CBD. You'll attend workshops at our very own incubator or see the markets in action in the state-of-the-art Finance Decision Lab. Our graduates work in the Big Four consultancies and banks, the government, the non-for-profit sector, companies listed on the stock exchange, and firms driving latest innovations in the arts, health, science, technology, and more.
In our Bachelor of Commerce, you'll get the chance to partner with our award-winning lecturers, our cutting-edge industry partners, and our vibrant student community. You will learn from our passionate teachers and enjoy the most enriched learning experiences throughout the course. In the first year, you'll study a broad range of subjects on marketing, management, economics, finance, and accounting to equip you with foundational knowledge and tools of commerce.
In the second and third year, you'll develop technical knowledge and employability skills. The Bachelor of Commerce offers a diverse range of majors: analytics, entrepreneurship, international business, information systems, human resources, and more. You can choose 1 or 2 majors to focus on your passion and specialize in your dream role. Our professional and community engagement or PACE subject is designed in partnership with one or more organizations where you get to experience and solve real-life industry problems.
In our interdisciplinary capstone subject, students of all majors come together collaboratively to advance a United Nations Sustainable Development Goal. In our degree, you'll have the chance to apply for an internship, participate in Macquarie's unique global leadership program, or go on an international exchange. We have student societies based on special interests, sports, nationalities, and industries, where you'll make new friends and build your network.
The Bachelor of Commerce is a course for anyone with a general interest in business. We partner with you to unleash your potential to transform you to be future business leaders and agents of change in any sphere of life. That's you to the power of us.
So I hope that gives you a quick context about the work that I do. The Bachelor of Commerce has 12 majors in it. We have students from accounting, marketing, finance, human resource management. There's quite a diversity of students within the Bachelor of Commerce. And that informs the way that I teach and the approaches that you will see in the talk today. I like to teach, number one, using a blank slate. So when I'm teaching, usually I don't rely on PowerPoint slides like we are doing over here today. I usually like to do everything from scratch, from a blank slate. We have a device called a visualizer, sometimes called a document capture. And while I am writing live during class and I'm still facing the audience, unlike using a whiteboard or a blackboard, I will turn around and write, and the students can't see my face, they can see my back. But this way I can write and engage with them, and then it will project onto the screen in the front of the classroom, and I can gauge their reactions. And we build this step by step from scratch. So I like to bring students to the front as well and, do the activity and build that lesson together with them. We like to say at Macquarie that students are partners and co-creators. Once these lectures are done, we record them, and then students can watch these at home, on the train on the way to university, and they can watch these for revision as well. I also like to use social media as part of my teaching, which I will talk about in more detail later today as well. So let's give you an overview of a proper framework for bringing all of these ideas together. And one framework we've used at Macquarie University is called a connected learning community. A connected learning community is a framework for learning and teaching excellence. And there are 3 pillars in this framework: connected experiences, connected curriculum, and connected people. Connected experiences are about making sure that everything that we do is memorable, interactive, and active for the students, and that we're using innovative methods so that the students actually have experiential learning rather than just actually going through content and reading content and memorizing content. Connected people is about the culture of the university, that students feel connected to each other, students feel connected to their teachers, and that the university is also connected to the partners in the community, the not-for-profit organizations, the firms, the businesses, and even the government. You saw in the video that I showed before that we pride ourselves in being involved with industry, that we cannot have a university experience without being connected to the people around us and the people within the university. And then we have a connected curriculum. And we make sure that everything that we teach is connected to what the theory says, but also connected to the practice when the students go into the real world. So that's a broad overview of the 3 pillars of our learning and teaching strategy. It's called a connected learning community, and there are 3 pillars in that: connected experiences, connected curriculum, and connected people. In connected experiences, we want to make sure that students have a sense of belonging, that they are partners and co-creators of their learning, that there's an integrated digital experience, and all the activities that we have are experiential. In a connected curriculum, we want to make sure that everything is program-based, that students are developing their life skills, that what we teach is informed by research, and that students are able to apply what they learn in a broader context. Connected people is about making sure that we have connected with the aspirations of our students and that we are sharing resources and activities amongst each other and our industry partners and building these external partnerships and making sure that we reward great students, but also reward great teachers who are excellent at what they do. So learning and teaching, from my point of view, is a huge problem. It's a constrained optimization problem. We want to make sure we engage students, we want to equip students, and we want to empower them, but we have limited resources. We have a few hours each week in the class. We have a budget, the financial constraints when we have teaching. We have a timetable constraint. We have a certain number of weeks in a semester. So there are lots of constraints, and we need to optimize engagement, equipping, and empowering of students. So I like to think about maximizing the engagement by focusing on the why of learning. And I like to think of maximizing how much we equip students by focusing on the how of learning. And when we have the why and we have the how, then our students will be empowered. So I'm going to talk about a 2-stage approach. At a very broad level, at a macro level, I'm going to talk about the why of learning and teaching. How can we retune the teaching? And I'm going to talk about a literature which you can research later in Google Scholar or in any of your research databases. And the literature draws upon an idea called threshold concepts. Keep that term in mind, because if you want to go research further after this session, you will be looking at a literature called threshold concepts. And at a more micro level, at a more individual level, when we think about making sure we re-scaffold the learning and look at the how of learning and teaching, not just the why, there's 2 literatures that I'd like you to direct you towards. There's one literature called Assessments for Learning, not assessments of learning, but assessments for learning, and another literature about learning taxonomies. So today, when I talk about the why of learning, I'll draw upon a literature called threshold concepts. And when I talk about the how of learning, I'll draw upon a literature called the assessments for learning and another literature about learning taxonomies. So let's begin with threshold concepts. What are threshold concepts? The traditional approach to learning and teaching, let's call it the existing approach. This approach is input focused. In the input-focused approach, excuse me, in the input-focused approach, we focus on the accumulation of content. We are always pouring knowledge to the student, and we are worried about, did the student get all of this knowledge? The threshold concept approach is an output-focused approach. Rather than being worried and stressed about, did the student gather all of the knowledge? We focus on whether the student has developed the way of thinking and the way of practice. Has the student developed the capability to actually practice in this particular discipline, not just accumulate knowledge? Threshold concepts is a literature that began in 2003 by the team Meyer and Land. And again, when you're doing your research, you can look up Meyer and Land 2003. They argued that every discipline, whether it's psychology, accounting, management, English, engineering, whatever the discipline is, each discipline has some threshold concepts. And if the student gathers these concepts, it will change the way they view the world. Threshold concepts, they argue, are a portal, a gateway, a way of thinking, a lens of viewing the world. They argued that threshold concepts have some certain characteristics. Threshold concepts are transformative. Once the student gets this concept, it will change the way they view the world. Threshold concepts are troublesome. They are difficult to learn. Threshold concepts are irreversible. Once you learn it, it is almost impossible to forget these concepts. Threshold concepts are integrative. You can apply and use them in any facet of life, not just the discipline area. I am from an economics background, so I'm going to talk about some threshold concepts in economics. And I'm going to highlight one of these threshold concepts: opportunity cost. Some of you may be familiar with this term if you are from a business commerce background. Some of you may not have heard this term before. Opportunity cost is the value of the next best alternative that you have given up. So, for example, in economics, we don't just think, I'm going to buy this book for $20 because this book is available in another city and it's cheaper than the book that I can buy in the shop next door, which is $30. So I'm going to buy the $20 book because it's cheaper. But the opportunity cost of going to another city to buy that cheaper book, I have to give up time, I have to pay for travel, and in that time, I could have done something else. I could have worked and earned some money. So there's an opportunity cost involved by trying to actually look for the cheaper product. So opportunity cost is a very important term in economics. And we can argue that opportunity cost is a threshold concept. It's transformative. If you learn this concept, it will change the way you shop. it would change the way you make decisions. You're not just going to look at this item is $20, this item is $30. You're going to look at, okay, the cheaper item, what do I need to do to buy that cheaper item? Do I need to spend time traveling? Do I need to spend time searching? What do I need to give up? So it changes the way you view just the price tag that you see. It's troublesome. It's difficult to learn. You may be used to just comparing raw prices. You may not be used to just looking at all the alternatives. It's irreversible. I learned this concept 25 years ago. I still remember it. It's difficult for me to unlearn. It's integrative. I can use this concept not just in economics. I can use this concept in day-to-day life as well. So threshold concepts, as I mentioned before, changes the way you think. It's a portal. It's a lens. And that's why it can inform the way that we teach. So here's an example that I used to help the students change the way that we view the world. We used to have a way we taught economics. The previous offering you can see in the first column, and the new offering you can see in the last column. And I felt that the students, the way they see the world can be transformed if I take the topics that are right at the end of the semester and I place them at the beginning of the semester. And then they can see the way the economy works in action. So what I ask them, once I teach them these topics at the beginning in the first 6 weeks about how the economy works, I give them an assignment in the middle of the semester. I ask them to find the examples of these topics: perfect competition, monopoly, oligopoly, and monopolistic competition. And I use social media for this activity in the assignment. So there are 4 hashtags: one for perfect competition, one for monopoly, one for oligopoly, and one for monopolistic competition. And the idea is the students need to find the examples and take a photo. They take a photo and they apply the hashtag, and then they upload the photo onto a social media platform like Instagram. There's a few advantages of this. Because I give them the assignment, they start thinking to look around the world and look for these examples in practice. Also, when you put it on social media, you can encourage the students to start commenting on each other's examples. And the third advantage is when I come to class, I don't use the example in the textbook. I don't use my example. I put the hashtag in Google, and then the students' own pictures start coming up. And the students get very excited because now I'm using not my example, not the textbook example, but the students' own examples. So if we're talking about perfect competition, I bring up this hashtag. If we're talking about monopoly, I bring up this hashtag. So monopoly is when there's only one firm in the market. So you can see students have taken photos of the train, students have taken photos of the post office, students have taken photos of the water supply. One student has even taken a photo of an army helicopter. Definitely a monopoly, the army. Oligopoly is when there's a few firms in the market. So here the students have taken photos of very large firms. And monopolistic competition is when there are quite a few players in the market selling differentiated products like restaurants. And so the students have taken photos of different restaurants. Now, you might be thinking this is very applicable only to economics, but I would argue it's applicable to psychology, how people interact. Students can take photos of that. It's applicable to English. How is English or whatever language used in advertising, in books, in newspapers? It's everywhere. You can use this for philosophy. You can use this for chemistry. You can use this for biology. I would say that it's very easy if you encourage your students to start looking for the application of what they learn in any aspect of life, whether it's science, whether it's business, whether it's arts. Students will begin to see the topic that you are teaching in their day-to-day life. It's also very good for a classroom activity, actually. So sometimes in the class, if I just want to create a great active learning atmosphere, I give the students 10 minutes, go leave the classroom, take your camera, your phone with you, and take some photos of the examples and come back to class, and then we can share the examples. So here's just an example of me giving the students a challenge to go around the campus, take some photos of the examples, and then we discuss the examples that they found around the campus. It also gives students a lens to view current affairs, because once they start thinking, okay, I'm learning psychology at university and I'm looking for examples of psychology everywhere. I'm learning biology at university. I'm looking for examples of biology everywhere. I'm looking for economics examples. So they start to now think about what they learn with respect to the news. Climate change is a very big news item. The different wars that are occurring right now, that's a very big news item. The different elections that are occurring, big news items. So students can now place whatever they're studying, whether it's science, whether it's arts, whether it's business, and they can start looking for these news articles. And then you as a lecturer, you as an academic, a professor, can start contributing articles to the media as well, which I've had the blessing to do by doing the same thing the students are doing, but now creating these articles instead. And especially during the pandemic, it was a great way to start engaging with the media. So I've talked to you about the why of learning when it comes to threshold concepts. And you may recall there's a second approach, the how of learning, when it comes to assessments for learning and learning taxonomies. And let's talk about learning taxonomies first. You probably heard of Bloom's taxonomy. I'm sure many of you have heard of this. And Anderson and Krathwohl in 2001 came up with the revised Bloom's taxonomy. Now, students can be taught the what, the content, the knowledge. The why is the way we try to engage them by changing the way they view the world. And I talked about threshold concepts as a tool to help change the way they view the world, and social media being one of those tools to help that activate as well. Now, we also want students to know about the how of learning. How do I learn? How do I apply myself? How do I answer those exam questions? How do I critically think? So I find Bloom's taxonomy to be a great tool to activate this. At the very bottom of Bloom's taxonomy are what we call low-level learning. And as you gradually go higher, you get to higher level learning. Remember is the most basic form of learning. The student simply recalls the concept. Understand is higher than that. They can not only recall the concept, but they also know what's happening. They know what it means. Of course, we don't want our students to stop there. We want them to start applying, take the knowledge and solve problems. Not only that, we want them to go one step higher. Look at a certain situation and analyze and explain what is happening by drawing upon the concepts. Even higher than that is when the students can evaluate, make judgments, look at the pros, look at the cons, and make an evaluation. And even higher than that, if you have research projects, you want the students to be creating new knowledge. So as a teacher, obviously, we want our students to go to the highest level of this pyramid. If you have a 3 or 4 year degree, maybe the first few years towards the bottom, the middle years towards the middle, and by the end of the degree, you want to make sure your students are critically thinking and creating new knowledge. Excuse me. So I developed in my research a 4-step version of this called REAL, R-E-A-L. R, recap and remind. So every lesson has 4 parts. Every exam question has 4 parts. Every tutorial question has 4 parts. This helps train the student in the how of learning. So whether it's a lesson, whether it's a tutorial question, whether it's an assignment, whether it's an exam question, we follow these 4 steps. Part A will be recap and remind. What are the basics of the concept that you have just learned? Step 2 is called an engaging everyday example. Engaging examples every day. You connect that simple concept or that complex concept to an example and show that to the student so that it clicks to them. After that, you challenge them and ask them to apply and be aware of the application of that concept. So now you pass it back to the student and ask them to show the application. So you've started off with the basic concept, recap and remind. You've shown them the concept in an everyday example. Then you pass it to them and ask them to apply. And they can do that individually, but hopefully they do that in groups, in teams, so they can discuss with each other. And then I like to challenge them in the 4th part, and I call that learning life lessons. And I try my best to connect that to the current affairs of the day. So if you're teaching science, maybe you can connect that to climate change. If you're teaching politics, philosophy, psychology, maybe you can connect that to the latest political turmoil in some part of the world. If you're teaching economics, business, commerce, there's always some business story or a government story to link that to. So learning life lessons is a bit harder because you're discussing very tricky global and national issues. And usually there's always 2 or 3 sides to these stories. And you're trying to get the students to understand those very tricky arguments that have multiple layers to them. I'd like to go through some examples of some real lessons, REAL. But before we do that, let's take a quick 7-minute break. And I'll ask Abdul and Adil, let's give ourselves a 7-minute break, and then we'll come back to talk about these examples. So I'll see everybody in 7 minutes time. I won't say the time because we're all in different time zones, but I'll see you all in 7 minutes. All okay, Abdul, Adil?
Okay, sir.
Okay, I'll come back in 7.
Prashant sir, shall we start?
Hi, everyone.
Okay, sir, welcome again.
Hello, hello.
Hello, sir. You can start.
Sure. So just to recap, I talked about REAL, real, as a pedagogy for your lessons, for your tutorial questions, for your assignments, or for your exam questions to help the student go step by step in their learning so that, you know, if you give them a very difficult question that involves a lot of critical thinking and a lot of evaluation, that you have guided them step by step along this Bloom's taxonomy pyramid. And let me give you one example, two examples. The first example that I would like to talk about is a very topical issue right now: climate action, climate change. Whether you're in the business sphere or geography, sciences, politics, climate change is on the news all the time. It's one of the agendas for global leaders, if not the agenda for global leaders. So there's many things being discussed about climate change. So I show students a very difficult newspaper article. This is from 2016. New Zealand decided one way to tackle climate change is by granting a river the same rights as a citizen. Now, that's a very complicated idea for students to grasp. How does climate change get resolved by giving a river the rights of a citizen? And not just climate change, but how do we ensure a good environment by giving a river the same rights as a citizen? So if I give this as a question to students to tackle, they'll get a bit confused and they won't know how to apply themselves. They won't be able to get to the highest level of Bloom's, which is create and evaluate. We need to guide them step by step up that pyramid. So hence the real REAL approach. So if the ultimate aim of my lesson is for students to understand this complex article, I need to scaffold it step by step. So every lesson, the students know that the lesson will be scaffolded in this REAL manner. And then we'll start that set of questions with some R, recap and remind, some very basic concepts that they should know from the previous week. Then I will connect that to an engaging everyday example. And here's a photo of the Prime Minister and the previous Prime Minister of Australia. At the time, he was the Treasurer. in 2016, delivering the budget of the economy for the next financial year. And then I asked the students to start applying this knowledge to something topical like plastic bags being banned and the government passing regulations about banning plastic bags. So now the students need to take the knowledge and apply it to a new situation. So I've taken them step by step. First, there are some, if you like, easy questions about what they've learned. Then I've shown them the connection to something happening in the economy every day. Then I throw it back to them to start applying their knowledge. And then we can start tackling this very tricky question about, okay, what does it mean if a river has the same rights as a citizen? And how does that help solve environmental problems? And how can that prevent pollution? And how can that help climate change as well? Another very complex topic is about Brexit. You may have been following Brexit in the last few years, and it's become one of the issues with the latest change in the prime ministership in the UK, and they're still deciding right now. Boris Johnson took them out of Brexit, took them through Brexit, and now there's been some issues in the UK economy, and now they are trying to decide a new prime minister. It's a very complex issue, Brexit. You may recall there were heated arguments for Brexit, heated arguments against Brexit. So there's a very complex issue. We want the students to understand this complex issue. So we need to take them step by step. So similar approach, REAL. I want the students to be able to read a newspaper article and be able to understand both sides of the story, evaluate, and critically think. So we need to take them step by step, recap and remind about some basic concepts, everyday examples about these concepts applied. We talked about two firms, Nike and IBM. Then we asked them to talk about the pros and cons of Brexit by talking about an article in The Economist, and then give them that ability to learn a life lesson. So by using this how of learning approach, by focusing on the way the students learn and realizing that to get to the top, evaluate and create, we need to take the students step by step and not just show them the evaluate question only, but gradually teach them the method to get there. And then eventually the student will gain the confidence and know the tools themselves to start evaluating and creating new knowledge and being critical thinkers. The good news is we used this approach when we launched some of our Excel courses as well. I'm not sure if you're aware, but we have from Macquarie University, if you go to Coursera, we've developed 10 Excel courses that follow this principle of guiding the students step by step. These are massive open online courses, MOOCs, and you can find them on Coursera. We have Excel skills for business, and there are 4 courses there: Essentials, Intermediate 1, 2, and Advanced. We have Excel skills for data analytics and visualization, and again, 3 courses. This one is 3, not 4. 3 courses here, and we have Excel skills for business forecasting, and again 3 courses there. Now, even the way the courses are designed, you can see it's following that step-by-step approach. But even in the teaching, we followed that methodology of guiding the students step by step. And then we give them an assignment where they need to start producing the results by going through those steps. When teaching in the classroom, I like to use classroom experiments as well. So, for example, if I want to show them how a factory operates, I ask the students to actually model a factory in the classroom and get them to share tasks with each other and get them to have a manager of the factory, and they can see that activity live in person in class and actually see those concepts come to life by using a classroom experiment and by using role playing. And it's also a great way to take your lessons to attract students to join university as well. So I like to take these lessons around. This is a map of New South Wales, which is the state that Sydney is in. And if you have a very interactive lesson, you can take it to a school, a quick 40 or 45-minute lesson, and get the students engaged and active in that lesson, and they might want to think about enrolling in that degree, enrolling in that course based on those interactions. So apart from those lessons that I've shown you, another way we've tried to activate the why and the how of learning is in the Macquarie Business School, MQBS, BCom, Bachelor of Commerce, capstone unit. Now, you may recall the video that I showed before. The Bachelor of Commerce has 12 majors in it. We have students from accounting, business analytics, business information systems, business statistics, cybersecurity governance, economics, entrepreneurship, finance, human resource management, international business, management, and marketing. So it's quite a diverse group of students, and they all have their major. But in the capstone, which is the final subject of their degree, we get all the students to come together in this one subject. And we mix them into teams of 5 to 7. And we ask them to solve a real world problem that relates to the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals and show how commerce and business can play a part in achieving these goals. We want the students to address a UN SDG, United Nations Sustainable Development Goal, ethically, collaboratively, sustainably, and profitably. Profitably because the profit they generate will go back into that project to address the United Nations Sustainable Development Goal. For those who may not be aware, you can check later. The UN has 17 Sustainable Development Goals, which all UN members have signed and are trying to achieve and advance. And we make sure that the students' projects relate to one or more of these goals in their mixed major teams. The learning and teaching method is a 3-step method: pre-read, discuss, and apply. Every week before class, the students have some pre-reading to do. And then we have a 3-hour seminar. In the first hour of that seminar, the students and their lecturer will discuss what they read. and the lecturer, the professor, will make sure that the students understand what they've read and they've clarified any doubts. In the last 2 hours, the students get to apply their knowledge to their project. What happens is the students get a scaffolded activity sheet. So this activity sheet for 2 hours will guide the team of 7 students through a series of steps. Every week they do these activity sheets. By the end of the semester, they will have a finished project. So you can see we are incorporating the how of learning. We are giving the students those steps and guiding them. We're not lecturing them. We're just telling them, here are the steps to follow. And if you follow these steps and work in your team, then your project will keep excelling and advancing each week. Our job as the teacher is to walk around the classroom and help the students answer their questions. But we're not giving them the information. They need to do this, especially because this is a final year subject. The students have a bit of maturity to find the answers and solve the problems themselves. We start the semester by getting the students to reflect. Then, as I said, we discuss, and then they get the scaffolded activity sheet where the students apply. So pre-read, discuss, and apply. So as I mentioned, we start the semester by asking the students to reflect. What have they done throughout the few years of their degree at the beginning? And we actually use a teaching tool called Lego Serious Play. You can Google this later, Lego Serious Play. It's a great teaching tool, good for reflection as well. We ask the students to build something that reflects their journey throughout university until their final year subject. So it's a very interesting way because the students build something that shows the journey throughout university, and is also a good icebreaker for students to start discussing with each other and getting to know the new students in this new class. Then we have assessments. As I mentioned, their project and their presentation and the report is all about the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. They need to write a reflective essay about what they've done throughout their Bachelor of Commerce. And then an interesting assessment we have is called an agility exercise. Halfway through the semester, we tell the students in advance that there will be a shock. We won't tell you what the shock is until the middle of the semester. Then we ask the students to address that shock in 1 working week. So the shock could be an economic shock. It could be a natural disaster. It could be a political shock. It could be any shock. We put this in because the real world has shocks. You are working with your team. You're planning a project 3 months, 6 months, 1 year. Halfway through, some sort of shock occurs and you need to deal with it. So we introduced this agility exercise to give our students that training. We have some good examples of these ideas coming into practice. One of our students, Joshua Ross, started up an actual business. And his business is called Humanitix. Humanitix is a real business, you can check it later, where it's a ticket selling platform. So if it's a music event, education event, environmental event, social justice event, you can put your event on this platform, and then the ticket sales, the commission is used by this business, Humanitix, to fund female literacy in Southeast Asia. So it's a business that uses the profit to fund female literacy in Southeast Asia. So they are solving United Nations Sustainable Development Goal number 4, quality education, and number 5, gender equality. Now keep in mind, there are 17 goals, and this business is solving 2. So you can actually use the knowledge that you have from your degree, whatever that degree might be, to solve global problems. And we like our students to think that way. We have multimodal delivery. Sometimes the students are in the physical classroom discussing face-to-face. TBL stands for team-based learning. Of course, during the pandemic, we had to do this on Zoom. Then we started moving into more blended learning. Here are some students in one room and me on Zoom. Here are some students, half the team is in the classroom and half the team is on Zoom. And another approach, some students on Zoom and some students in the classroom. And it's a great way to actually use active learning here as well, because the students, when they go to work, they could have some team members in their real workplace in Hyderabad, some team members in Sydney, some team members in Dhaka, some team members in London, and the clients in Tokyo. So you're giving students opportunities to learn because that's the way that they'll be working as well. So you get to sharpen their skills in this aspect. At the end of the semester, we ask the students to, we ask the students to put their work on an e-portfolio. So everything they do, everything they create, they populate on an e-portfolio called Portfolium. And you can check out Portfolium later as well. There's a free version and there's a paid version. We actually use the free version. In the free version, the students are able to take all the different projects they create, whether it's science or arts or business, whether it's a video, a PDF, an audio file, an interview, and whatever project work they do at university, they can put into this Portfolium account. And then they can showcase their Portfolium when they apply for jobs and when they are in job interviews. One of the assessments is a 3-minute elevator pitch using Portfolium. The students have to convince the employer of the skills they have by talking about their portfolio and showing the employer these skills. I'm just going to show you a couple of Portfolium 3-minute elevator pitches by some of our students.
Good morning or afternoon. My name is Louise Broing, and I'm a member of Group A12, otherwise known as Project Energize Human Waste. We're seeking to address UN SDG 7 to provide affordable, reliable, sustainable, and modern energy for all. Our project, as the name suggests, is a solution that uses human waste in order to generate biogas for electricity in your very own home. Now let's see what our diverse multidisciplinary team have learnt through this project. I'll be starting us off. I think it's pretty surreal when I reflect on not only the field skills that I've built throughout my degree, but also how far I've come in terms of personal growth in the last few years. With both of these two components, I now take a lot of confidence with me to enter the professional workforce. I firmly believe in the power of learning through experience, and I personally find this to be the most effective form of learning for me, as I am a practical and reflective learner. And that's made it even more crucial to understand myself, how I work, and how I can best develop and grow. It's also because of this that I've genuinely valued this unit for its practicality. I recognize that without self-reflection, we simply go through life without thinking, moving from one thing to the next, without making time to self-evaluate what's going well and what isn't. I've always considered myself quite sustainably aware, but admittedly, this unit was my first proper introduction to the UN SDGs. I've since explored applying my knowledge to address various SDGs in assessments across multiple units this semester, as well as my co-curricular work with Enactus. Not only has this exploration grown my understanding of the SDGs exponentially, but it's also ignited a bit of a fire in me, and I've realised that this is an area that I'm really passionate about. And I'm now hoping to pursue a career around sustainability marketing and sustainable business practices. Both the agility exercise and the capstone project have challenged and built my teamwork, communication, and leadership skills significantly. Admittedly, I can be a bit of a peacekeeper wanting to keep everyone happy, and by personality type, I'm an INFP, so speaking up and leading doesn't always come naturally. But I quickly realised in this unit that speaking up about our ideas and driving collaboration is crucial to building high-quality outputs. At the same time, I've also had to work on not getting frustrated when communication issues occur, and it's a work in progress, but I'm trying to be more understanding instead of reactionary so that I can be agile in problem solving and in cross-cultural communication. I also typically tend to prefer to work individually, but whilst it wasn't without its hurdles, which were an opportunity for learning and improvement in themselves, I really recognize the value now in multidisciplinary teams, as diverse skills can build some incredible creative solutions. I recognize that these personal and group environment skills will be crucial to my career. Lastly, I'm incredibly grateful to have had the opportunity to apply the learnings from my major in a more practical environment. I think I'm guilty of doubting myself and my abilities more than I realize, but having the chance to challenge myself, the Bachelor of Science consultations, and our capstone project was actually really enjoyable. I feel like this experiential application not only solidified my learnings, but also made a significant impact on my confidence. I can now firmly state that these skills are helping me mature, both personally and professionally, and I believe that I can enter the professional space with capability and confidence. I'll now pass you on to Maya.
So as I mentioned, the students are working in cross-disciplinary teams, and they are trying to address a United Nations Sustainable Development Goal. And while doing that, they populate the evidence of their work onto this tool called Portfolio, which is an e-portfolio, where then they can show the connection between what they learn and the jobs that they might want to do in the future. And when they go to apply for these jobs, employers want to know the evidence of the skills these students bring. So Louise there was effectively communicating not just the content that she learned, but the employability skills that she's gathered and harnessed through the work that she's done. She can then use that video, and she did, because I know she secured not one, but many job offers. And using that video, which was an assignment in the unit, that video was part of the assignments. It was a presentation worth 20%. She was able to use the video, share it on LinkedIn, and get job interviews, multiple job offers, and secure some employment. So you're making an authentic assessment for the students that is relevant for their real life experience. I'd like to show you a different video from a different type of student who's approached it a slightly different way.
Hello and welcome to our capstone presentation. I am Abid Zahid, one of the team members of my capstone group. We are a team of 6 people who work together to achieve our primary and secondary goals of UN SDGs. In our team, 3 of us are equipped with marketing management skills. The rest of the team members are highly equipped with knowledge and skills from disciplines of accounting, international business, and human resource management. As I am on my ultimate semester of Bachelor of Commerce in Marketing Management, for me, it's crucial to learn from real-life projects to gain experiences. However, this is the first time in my academic career I have been privileged of working in a multidisciplinary environment. During the project, there was a hurdle to communicate effectively. Since each of us had the similar goal but distinctive thinking style and knowledge bases, I was aware that divide and conquer rule will not work in this project. I have applied my leadership and people management skills so that we all can work for the shared goal of achieving all targets of our UN SDGs. Now I feel open-minded about listening, understanding, and coordinating in my future professional environment. Nowadays, employees and workplaces have become more diverse and require a dynamic skill set to fit prospective employees. For example, the Capstone project required working remotely and collaboratively, which required complex problem solving and technical skills. It was unbelievable that we finished the project without wasting any paper. Thus, I have developed technical skills in using online-based software and application tools. Besides, a goal selection problem was arised since some SDGs were more addressable with different academic backgrounds. We had to come in a common preference with internal coordination. Thus, my coordination skill in a team has been enhanced, which is required in professional workplaces. Working on my project, I felt I do have a lack of professional networking skills. For example, in my agility exercise, I had to put a showcase video of our venture and how we are planning to address even SDGs target with our venture on LinkedIn platform. And suddenly, I realized that the LinkedIn platform has a very good prospect for me to enhance my networking skills and be connected with the people I value. Furthermore, I have also received a feedback from Bachelor of Science students regarding the product design and development to make the product aesthetic, lucrative, and translucent. Then I have forwarded the thought to my teammates. With their concern, I had redesigned the product compositions so that it can meet the aesthetic requirements as suggested. This feedback helped me increase my self-awareness and evaluation regarding my past and present decision-making. The challenge of incorporating UN SDGs in our business project is that my application of sustainable concern has been enhanced. I had to redesign the branding and business framework, which taught me to think and design the marketing strategy from different environment-friendly perspectives. After all, it had been a great project to learn, experience, and enjoy. I think sustainability is a lifelong thinking that deals with environment friendliness and well-being of the society. I will incorporate practices of my sustainable thinking, teamwork ability, and creative skills, not only in my professional life, but also in my personal life.
And the best part there is that Abid was actually an international student, whereas the first one you saw, Louise, was a domestic student, an Australian student. And it's a great way to actually get students to come out of their shell and make sure that they are able to showcase their skills. And you saw how Abid used his marketing knowledge and was able to not just showcase marketing, but really showcase the skills he has learned: collaboration, problem solving, conflict resolution, critical thinking, creativity. Because whatever field you're in, whether it's business or arts or science, companies, firms want to hire students, graduates that have these transferable, these people skills. Sometimes we hear the term soft skills. I like to call them transferable skills and people skills, because our students should not just be equipped with the knowledge and the content, but they should be equipped with how to deal with that knowledge in an active workplace by dealing with other people. They have to deal with their team members. They have to deal upwards to their manager. They need to deal downwards to their clients as well. So this sort of active learning, by focusing on authentic assessments, makes students realize, okay, there is a why behind my learning. I am doing these assignments because they're actually going to be helpful for me to get a job. And I can actually use the assessments that I've done to apply for a job and showcase my knowledge, but not just my knowledge, but my skills as well. And just to show you just one last video, that it's not just for qualitative studies, it can also be for quantitative studies. I'm going to show you a video from Megan, who's actually from an accounting background. So Abid and Louise were from a marketing, more qualitative background, but using these authentic assessments and e-portfolios and highlighting the why of learning via the authentic assessments can also help technical subjects as well.
Hi, I'm Megan. I'm a final year commerce student majoring in finance and accounting. In undertaking the Commerce Capstone unit, I worked in a team of students from various majors to complete a project that required us to create a profitable business that achieves at least one UN Sustainable Development Goal. Additionally, we completed an agility exercise providing consultation to Bachelor of Science students undertaking the same project. This unit has developed and refined many skills I believe enhance my employability. One such skill is creativity. This unit enhanced my creativity by encouraging new ways of working. For example, in completing the agility exercise, we were required to use Canva to create our report as opposed to Google Docs or Microsoft Word. The capstone project itself required creative thinking to solve one UN SDG. I suggested that to limit food waste under the 12th SDG, we create a meal kit delivery company with kid-friendly recipes accompanied by YouTube cooking videos. This focuses more on creating a behaviour change than simply limiting leftover waste. Creative individuals are an asset to the workplace as they bring fresh ideas and are generally better problem solvers. For this reason, I'm constantly trying to overcome my tendency to be a creature of habit and instead embrace creativity by keeping an open mind and trying new approaches. My teamwork skills also developed significantly. This unit was the first time I worked with students from other majors to complete a project. I found that we could not simply allocate tasks to work on individually. Our parts interconnected with each other's, which required effective communication, collaboration, and shared decision-making to take advantage of the diverse knowledge and skills possessed by the team. This enhanced my communication as I had to explain finance concepts and theories in ways easy to understand by teammates not from finance backgrounds. My ability to work in a team will assist in the workplace where collaborative problem solving in cross-functional teams leads to better outcomes. This capstone project provided valuable teamwork experience and insights that will prove useful in refining future teamwork in the workplace. The capstone project also exercised my critical thinking skills. As a finance major, I was responsible for forecasting cash flow to calculate the expected rate of return and determine the business's profitability. Forecasting revenue and expenses required extensive analysis of various sources of information and logical reasoning to arrive at figures applicable to our business. I then had to critique assumptions made and evaluate the calculated return. This is an essential skill to have in the workplace as it cannot be replicated by robots and allows for complex problem solving. To conclude, this capstone unit has enhanced my employability by developing my creativity, teamwork, and critical thinking skills. I will now pass on to Sienna.
So again, this is a technical student from an accounting background, able to highlight how she benefited from the authentic assessment and use that why of learning and the how of learning to actually activate and showcase her knowledge to an employer via her 3-minute elevator pitch. So before I go into Q&A, just to quickly summarize our discussion today, we started off by talking about learning and teaching as a constrained optimization problem. We want to engage, equip, and empower students. I looked at the why of learning as one way we can engage students. If they understand why they're learning what they're learning, then they will be intrinsically motivated and want to engage. The how of learning to equip them. It's not just what we teach, it's them being ready for the workplace, them being employable. We need to teach the students how to learn. And if we give them the why and the how, then our students will be empowered. For the why of learning, we looked at a literature called Threshold Concepts, a way of viewing the world, a portal, a gateway of learning. And I specifically showed you one example of that using social media, for example, asking the students to take photos so that they can see the world in action within the light of their discipline. At a micro level, for the how of learning, I talked about the literature on assessments for learning and the literature on learning taxonomies. You saw an example there, a few examples with Megan's and Abid's and Louise's presentations, where the project and the video presentation using the ePortfolio was an assessment for their learning. It's not just an assessment of their learning. The actual project, the actual report, and the presentation is a tool to help them to learn. And they can use that authentic assessment to help them secure a job. And we looked at the literature on learning taxonomies, Bloom's taxonomy in particular, and I gave you an application of that using REAL. So again, when it came to threshold concepts, using social media as a tool and hashtags for students to actively start seeing whatever they're learning in the real world, whether it's economics, whether it's biology, whether it's politics, whether it's English, whatever you are teaching, actively get them to start seeing that subject applied in their world. Take those photos, tag those photos. Then as the teacher, bring up the hashtag in the classroom and put their photos on the screen. So you're talking about the students' examples, not your examples, not the textbook examples, but the students' own examples. Then as a teacher, you can also start commenting and writing media articles as well, because you're also seeing the concepts in action in the real world, and then you can use your own media articles to engage the students. We talked about the real approach as one way to help activate Bloom's taxonomy, R, recap and remind, E, engaging examples every day, A, application and awareness, and L, learning life lessons. I gave you 2 examples of trying to activate high-level thinking. One about how do I get my students to understand a very complex problem, such as a river having rights as a citizen, and how does this help solve environmental pollution? And then we talked about another complicated example for students to understand, like something like Brexit, and such complex stories that the student wants to start critically thinking about and evaluating, but you navigate them step by step. And then I showed you how we use the same approach, not just for teaching economics at university, but creating these massive open online courses in creating Excel-based courses. Then I showed you about how we created an interdisciplinary capstone unit. This interdisciplinary capstone unit has students across 12 majors working together to solve a United Nations Sustainable Development Goal. And it's many things happening in this unit, but the students are working together in cross-disciplinary teams. We're bringing industry guests to campus. We're getting them to work not just with cross-disciplinary within business and commerce, but cross-disciplinary with science as well, and getting them to think about the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. We give them an agility exercise partway through the semester to shock them, to give them that practice of what might happen in the real world when there's a shock. And then all of their assignments and all of their assessments get populated onto an e-portfolio called Portfolium. Portfolium is great, as you saw in Megan's presentation and Abid's presentation. Whenever they were presenting, the student can quickly bring up the evidence of what they've done and tag the skills that are relevant. And actually, in some countries, employers just go to Portfolium and start searching the database for students who have particular skills. Which is why we encourage students to start sharing their Portfolium on LinkedIn as well. So our students are quite active on LinkedIn, and we encourage them to start getting involved in LinkedIn. And I would like you to feel free to add me on LinkedIn as well. And I would love to connect with you as well over LinkedIn and see what you're doing and learn and grow together. LinkedIn is a great platform to learn about what others are doing in the higher education space. In all of the feeds that we have on LinkedIn, I get to see what others are doing and thought leadership. And it's a great way for me to continue to learn just by scrolling through all the other things that other universities are doing and all the events that are happening when it comes to education and learning and teaching. So everybody is on a learning journey, not just the students, but teachers included. So we need to be constantly learning, and we need to keep up to date with what's happening. And conferences like this are great ways to continue to learn. And then, of course, conferences happen once or twice a year. But then in your daily professional development, I always find that LinkedIn is a great way to get some thought leadership articles and interact with the best lecturers and industry professionals and professors, and to learn, grow, and connect with them. And maybe start collaborating in the teaching or the research space. So that's me and all the work that I do, whether it's teaching economics or teaching Excel or teaching a cross-disciplinary capstone unit. And I hope the session on activating the why and the how of learning and teaching was helpful. And I believe the last 20 minutes, I believe in the last 20 minutes that we will be having Q&A. And Adil, I didn't maximize the screen on purpose because I was moving around all the videos and websites and many files. That's why I didn't maximize the screen on purpose, just so that I could quickly go through all these websites and videos. So I did that on purpose. So we might move it to question Q&A with Adil and Abdul. Abdul as our host for today and moderator for today. Thank you, Abdul.
Thank you, sir, for your wonderful session. I enjoyed a lot. I learned a lot from your session. With practical learning with the student sessions also, you have included like videos. We do have 1-2 questions, sir.
Sure.
Regarding that REAL pedagogy with some case studies, can you elaborate in 1-2 minutes?
Yeah, so because not everybody in the audience might be from an economics background. I didn't go into detail. I can. So with this REAL, where I wanted the students to learn about solving complex environmental issues. And of course, we need the government involved in solving complex environmental issues. So for the R, the recap and remind, we looked at the definitions of taxes and the definitions of subsidies and what are the different tools the government can use. Taxes to discourage certain behaviors and subsidies to encourage certain behaviors. Taxes on carbon pollution and subsidies for using renewable sources. So that was recap and remind. Now, to take it one step further, R is recap and remind. E is engaging everyday example. So we talked about the treasurer and the treasurer's budget and how the treasurer every financial year comes up with how they're going to allocate all the different taxes and all the different subsidies and take that money that the government receives and spend it, whether it's for subsidies or whether it's for different parts of the economy. So now we're connecting these taxes and subsidies via the treasurer, via the budget, which most students will know about. And then for the application and awareness, plastic bags being banned is a relatively new idea around the world. Australia right now is still going through that phase. Still, there are plastic bags, not 100% banned. So now I throw it to the students to start applying their knowledge about these taxes, subsidies, incentives to change behaviors when it comes to changing behavior regarding plastic bags. And what can governments do to encourage other behaviors? Now I've gone, step by step from what the students know to a more complex issue with plastic bags and non-plastic bags. And now perhaps they can do an evaluation of the pros and cons of the river having rights as a citizen. And that's towards the end of the lesson. So just gradually navigating the students step by step into something more complex.
Thank you, sir. I hope the participants cleared their doubts. Okay, sir, these are the questions I received. Can we end the session?
Sure, unless you have any other questions.
This is from my side, sir, actually. You're talking about the two-stage approach, output-focused threshold concept, na, sir? Can you go with that slide once, sir?
Sure, yeah. So the traditional approach to learning and teaching, the traditional approach is the input-focused approach. As a teacher, we are worried whether the student has all the knowledge, and we want to make sure that they know every single concept and definition and theory, and we want to make sure the student has all the knowledge. The output-focused approach is thinking about the student beyond the university. When they go into the workplace, not just the fact that they have the input, the knowledge, but they can create output, train, work, and view the world and think and apply that knowledge. And you saw in the videos of Louise and Abid and Megan how they were able to showcase the knowledge and apply themselves. Rather than just be an input and accumulation of knowledge, they were able to take it beyond and start applying. So we need to start thinking about education by the outcome, employability. The students are doing these degrees and majors and courses ultimately to get a job. And sometimes as lecturers, we are so theory focused and we are worried about teaching them so many concepts. We might forget that ultimately we want the student to be output focused and use that knowledge, be able to think, be able to practice in the workplace.